Hi everyone, welcome back to Casual Watch Review channel. This week we're looking at a watch from a company that I've not reviewed before, and it's Momentum. And to be honest, I've never really looked seriously at their watches because they are a little bit on the homage-y side, I'd say. They certainly do a cheeky Hamilton khaki. They also do a cheeky Citizen Tough watch and a few other little cheeky ones, I would say. But a watch that really caught my eye, and it was all to do with the story, is the new Sea Quartz. But before we do that, something just doesn't feel quite right. Let me try and fix it. There we go. That's much better. This is much more appropriate for reviewing such a historically important watch as we're looking at today, which is a recreation of a watch that Tom Selleck famously wore in the first 3 seasons of Magnum PI. There was Chronosports in other films as well. One of their watches was used in Rambo. If you're not familiar with this watch or the story, before they started the Momentum watch company, the founder Simon and his family owned a company called Chronosport. And in 1973, they released the original version of the Sea Quartz 30. It became such a popular watch that it ended up being in the first 3 seasons of Magnum PI. All these years later, they have decided to recreate that watch under their new brand name, Momentum. Is this recreation a good watch, or does it just trade off that cheeky history being in Magnum PI? If you see the reviews on their website, they are absolutely glowing of this watch. I've had this for about 2 weeks now, so I think we need to do a bit of an investigation ourselves to work out whether this watch really lives up to the hype and lives up to that $300 price range. We're going to do a hands-on review, so let's flip the camera around and we'll really dive into this Momentum Sea Quartz 30. First off, it comes in this pretty boring cardboard box. It was a little bit of a disappointment, this box. I thought they might have tied it into the theme a little bit better, but it's a simple cardboard box with a watch roll that looks as if it's made of some kind of canvas or denim. There's no real indication that this is a Magnum PI watch. It just uses, I suspect, their standard box. Some instructions there. There's the spare links. It uses push pins. If anybody's interested, that's why the arrows are there. It is a really good looking watch. From photos, it looks very similar to the original Chronosport one, but also has a lot of similarities to the early Heuer and Tag Heuer dive watches as well. Very similar case shape. The case is nicely proportioned. It's 45.2 to the crown. They say a 42mm, but the crown and its crown guards are so pronounced, I would go with 45 if I was measuring it on your wrist. There's a 46.8 from lug to lug, and we have a 20mm lug width, ideal for putting on extra straps. In the photos, it looks quite good on the Tropic strap. The bracelet that it comes with, it's solid end links with quick release. The clasp itself is a Triumph, nice milled clasp. It has a little bit of flex, which means it's comfortable. But the center links, which look to be polished, I don't know if this is accurate, but to me it looks like they've been chromed instead of polished. I also feel like that about the bezel. I feel like there's a coating or it's been chromed somehow rather than the center links being a high polish. I'm not crazy about the bracelet. Everything about it on paper looks good. It's solid. The clasp is obviously a Triumph, but I'm just not feeling it personally. Not a huge fan of the way that they've done the end links. So if you're debating whether you should pay the extra for the bracelet, you probably should, just so you can pick, but I would definitely wear this on a Tropic. I think it looks most iconic and accurate, I think, to the TV show, with it being on a Tropic strap as well. Moving around to the side, and we can see another reason why it wears so well, because it's only 11.3mm thick, and that's because this, as you can see, the ticking of the hand is using a Ronda quartz movement, the R507. The second hand does hit some of the markers. As it goes round now, we can see it hitting the markers near on, but as it gets round to the other side to where the date is, you'll see that it starts to go slightly off. And I'm not sure whether that's just because the tolerances are so exact with placing of these second hands that it misses it, or there's some other reason for that. If you know, let me know in the comment section. But you see see as we get round now, the fact that it is slightly missing it. Maybe the dial is slightly too big for the movement. Who knows? I'm not exactly sure, but it's perfectly livable with and understandable with it being a quartz watch. The dial is very simple. It's black with slightly photina numbers on there. The minute hand is very pronounced in bright orange. The hour hand, I know Jody at Just One More Watch wasn't a great fan of this hour hand, but I like it. I originally thought the hour hand was one continuous piece and then they've added black paint on to give this cutout, but it is in fact properly cut out. There's no part black paint on there either. I think the handset works well. It's nice to see a watch in this case without those military style hands. The CWC has a case like this with military style hands, and this would have looked far too much like a homage to that watch if it had had that. I'm a huge fan of the date, and we have both the date and date on here. We have a sapphire crystal. I don't know if there's a lot of anti-reflective coating on there, as you'll see from some of these outside shots. It's certainly catching the reflection. But overall, I think the dial and handsets work perfectly for this. Both the dial itself and the bezel are loomed, and this is loomed with C3 Superluminova. The bezel itself has a sapphire insert. This isn't an inset piece, it's a sapphire insert. That's how we have loom. It's also not acrylic. They say it is a sapphire piece that's gone in there. Quite good on a $300 watch, I would say. The crown, with it being, of course, a dive watch, the crown is screw down. Great fan of the proportions here, polishing on the side and polishing on the back case as well. A couple of the reviews online were quite over the top, saying that this watch had no flaws whatsoever, and I wouldn't say that is exactly correct. I have to be honest to say that the bezel action is not good on here at all. If you can hear it crunching away there, it really doesn't feel nice. It feels quite cheap. Probably one of the worst bezel actions that I've reviewed on a watch in a long time. It just feels really cheap. The bezel, I would say, is the only letdown. There is also a few QC issues on this watch. I really struggled to get close-ups of the dial. It's not that distinguishable by the naked eye, but as you can see from these close-ups, there is quite a bit of dust on the inside of the dial. It's not often that you see quite that much dust on the inside of a watch. Certainly one that's not a vintage piece. This is a new watch. That I think they could have done slightly better. So do I think the watch is worth $300? Honestly, if it wasn't for the story, I would argue that this probably isn't worth $300. I've reviewed much better watches in that price range. I did pay my own money for this. I waited on pre-order. This wasn't sent in by Momentum. I recently reviewed another watch by Detroit Mint. That was a mechanical watch. The fit and finish was better than this watch, and that was only $245. But because of the tie-in with the story, the fact that the watch just looks really cool, very nice to wear on my 7.2-inch wrist, as you can see here. It's just a cool looking watch, so I can forgive it a lot. $300 is probably the upper end of what I paid for this. There's many other watches that you could argue are not worth their price. It is all about the story. If you're getting this for $300, you're going to enjoy it. You are going to enjoy wearing it. It's a nice fit. More importantly, what do you think? Let me know in the comment section down below. Also, let me know, are you thinking of buying one? How long have you waited for a pre-order if you did pre-order it? Join us on the live streams if you want to give your opinion on this watch and anything else I review live. We live stream on a Tuesday and a Sunday. Always really appreciate you watching. See you next time on Casual Watch Reviews.